So, there are a few things more frustrating than when a beloved game series with thousands of fans just doesn't get treated with the amount of respect that it deserves. Sometimes it also seems to happen for no reason. The games get fantastic reception and a loyal following, only for its developers to just throw it away. Of course, creating games and managing a franchise is definitely hard, and anyone on the outside looking in probably has no idea what goes into all of it, but sometimes the mistakes seem so obvious you have to wonder what the hell they were thinking. So let's take a look at them today, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 thoroughly mistreated video game franchises. Number 10, Rayman. By all accounts, Rayman should have been the face of Ubisoft. Perfect as a mascot, the series had some incredibly beloved games starring the limbless wonder as he platformed his way through several really fun adventures. But then Rayman hit a roadblock that he just couldn't get past for the longest of time, and that was the Rabbids. Created as the main enemies for a mainline Rayman game, it got cancelled and reworked into a Wii minigame collection, and that started the full-on Rabbids takeover of the series. Rayman was barely seen for years as the Rabbids invaded everything they possibly could, with their own games, cameos, and even their own cartoon series. Eventually though, Rayman did come back in glorious 2D platforming form, earning high praise as some of the best of the genre. However, that glory didn't last long, as after 2 games Rayman was regulated to mobile with auto runners and a brand new adventure of the hero being miniaturized. The mobile games themselves are fine, but with how beloved the character is, it's a shame that Ubisoft seemingly refuses to do right by him. Number 9, Star Wars Battlefront. So how do you take a fan favorite series and almost destroy it? Well, you give the license to EA apparently. The original Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 were beloved, seen by many fans as some of the best Star Wars games ever made, and were some of the most popular games to play during the early days of online console gaming. Unfortunately, the original series would never see a third game, as it went through a lot of development issues. There were even plans for a 4th game on top of that, but of course, that was never going to happen. Eventually, the game was cancelled and Disney would give the license to EA, where they created a new Battlefront game that was bare bones at release, but you know what, it was fine enough. But then they made that 2nd game and almost killed the series before it released due to their loot box implementation, basically putting in a pay-to-win mechanic and making them almost mandatory if you didn't want to spend 40+ hours unlocking Darth Vader. The blowback was seething, giving them the most downvoted comment in Reddit history, and then having the controversy appear in mainstream news and forcing them to remove loot boxes 24 hours before launch. And now it seems that there won't be a 3rd game again, leaving the series in limbo once more. Number 8, Metroid. Now I know what you're thinking, didn't we just get Metroid Dread in 2021? Yes, we did, but the series as a whole has gone through a lot of ups and downs, so much so that Simon Miller is actually suing them. While most games are critically acclaimed, so few come out that a lot of people just kind of forget about the series until that next release. Being a Metroid fan is basically frustration incarnate. You have fantastic 2D games, and then the Prime series that reinvented what Metroid could be, and then you have Other M, which had some weird design choices and a story that was the definition of character assassination for poor Samus. And the thing is that if you want a new Prime game, well, too bad, have a spin-off with Metroid Prime on it that actually has nothing to do with Samus and doesn't have the gameplay of the original. Want a new 2D game? Well, here, have some remakes while they spend 2 decades trying to make Dread. Still want Metroid Prime 4? Well, they restarted development, so you'll have to wait even longer. It's a series that should be bigger than it is, but thanks to some baffling decisions, the series has been held back from its full potential. Number 7, Sonic the Hedgehog. You would think that with being the biggest franchise in Sega's library, that Sonic team would know what to do with the series, but as it turns out, they haven't got a bloody clue, and they haven't for a very long time. Of course, we had the original and iconic trilogy back on the Genesis, and the fun Sonic Adventure duology, but afterwards the series started to take a nosedive that it never really recovered from. The developers just have no idea how to make Sonic appealing, adding in more and more gimmicks. While Sonic Heroes and even Shadow the Hedgehog were fine, I guess, the fact that they felt like they had to give Sonic's darker twin a gun should speak volumes, and that's not even going into the mess that was Sonic 06, the Werehog, and also Sonic Forces. The only game that got any widespread acclaim for the Blue Hedgehog in the modern era was Sonic Mania, a game which, lest we not forget, was created by die-hard fans of the series. With how great everything else in the world of Sonic is right now, we just hope that the games will match up with that quality eventually. Number 6, Metal Gear Solid. Now, not too many games are dependent on one man, but Hideo Kojima isn't just any man. Kojima helmed the Metal Gear Solid series and knocked it out of the park with every entry. With political intrigue and storylines about the horrors of war, predicting the state of the world with eerie accuracy, Metal Gear Solid is rightfully considered one of the best game franchises ever. However, Kojima and Konami started to clash during the production of Metal Gear Solid 5, and that led to the very ugly and very public divorce of the two before that game was released. While 5 definitely had its issues due to this, it was still critically acclaimed due to its open world and free-form gameplay. And then the series immediately tanked so much that it might as well have been dead. The first game without Kojima behind it, Metal Gear Survive came out, most likely as a way to test the waters within the franchise after the breakup. It was a spin-off game, not having anything to do with any version of Snake and having the player get transported into a zombie dimension. The gameplay was tedious, the story completely lacking, the world bleak and boring, and everything was just so terrible that most of the fanbase have written off the franchise entirely. You're more likely to see a pachinko machine for Metal Gear than a new game anytime soon. Number 5. Conker. Arguably the property that has suffered the most from Microsoft buying Rare, Conker has had more than one bad day at this point. The Squirrel made his debut on the N64, and while it didn't sell all too well, it was praised thanks to its solid platforming and raunchy adult subject material, being a perfect mismatch with the kid-friendly visuals. A sequel was planned but was scrapped once it went over to Xbox, and a remake of the first game was made instead. Then they tried to make a multiplayer-only game, but that never materialized. Conker kind of disappeared after that, with no real news about the series coming out, but then, in 2014, almost 10 years after the remake was released, it was announced that Conker would make his triumphant return in a game creation title called Project Spark. Obviously just a shallow marketing tactic, Project Spark shut down very early into its life, cutting any new experiences with Conker short. Afterwards, something called Young Conker was announced for the Microsoft HoloLens in 2016, and unsurprisingly, fans hated this idea, and Conker hasn't been seen since. Number 4. Devil May Cry. Now, before I begin talking about this one, let's just get it out of the gate. The actual game, DMC, if you're playing it from a gameplay perspective, is brilliant, but the redesign, that was not loved. And this is the thing, Capcom wanted to do Call of Duty-sized sales numbers and figured that the best way to do this was to reboot some of their franchises to appeal to Western audiences, and Devil May Cry was one of them. Changing Dante's iconic look, making his brother Virgil act like he'd call you milady, and having a story try way too hard to be cool and edgy, and also actively mocking things that previous fans liked of the series, the reboot was not looked at favorably. Years later, Capcom kind of admitted that they'd made a mistake and made Devil May Cry 5 going off the original series continuity and giving a very fitting end to the Sons of Sparda, and hopefully they'll keep it up. Number 3. Diablo. Is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke? Those 9 words are the best way to show how hilariously out of touch Blizzard was with what people wanted. Diablo 3 was released in 2012 to positive reviews, with fans of the series loving pretty much everything about it, but then years passed and fans were anxious to see what new entry would be to the series. Rumors of Diablo 4 were swirling, so at their convention in 2018, Blizzard announced that the next entry into the Diablo series was going to be Diablo Immortal. It was a mobile game, and then they announced nothing else. In their infinite wisdom, they decided to have a QA session about the game, which led to the Immortal quote above, and also had the crowd booing when the developers announced that there would be no PC port, and one particularly terrible retort from a developer that went to the tune of, "Do you guys not have phones?"
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
Now, while the 4th game was officially announced a while later, this whole thing felt like an absolute farce. Number 2. Mega Man. So Mega Man 11 was released in 2018 to pretty favorable reviews, making fans of the series very, very happy, but the iconic character wasn't always in such a good place. For all intents and purposes, Mega Man was dead in the 2010s. Several games for the Blue Bomber were announced in 2010, but every single one of them was cancelled, and Capcom just didn't do anything with the character for a long time. The Great Mega Man drought happened, and fans were in despair for anything from the franchise. In the gaming world, the best they got was a wacky DLC guest spot in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and it wasn't even the Mega Man that everyone loved, it was the Mega Man from the box art of the first game. You know, the one that made him look like an out-of-shape middle-aged man? Now, things seem to be a bit better for Mega Man right now with 11 and his spot in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinity, but the quality of that game aside, showing a renewed interest to include him in Capcom's plans, so hopefully the character won't vanish again. But seriously, Capcom, where's my Mega Man Legends follow-up? Come on, let's go. And number 1, Silent Hill. This series just cannot catch a break, can it? Silent Hill is one of the most iconic survival horror franchises ever, with the first 3 games in particular really standing out. Dealing with demons, both literal and personal, these games were artistic and horrifying masterpieces. But it seems that they lost track of why these games were so good, because they just kept on making follow-up games, and not a lot of them were any good. Homecoming and Downpour in particular focused more on action than horror, ignoring story beats from previous games in order to try and appeal more to wider audiences, and just clearly being rushed games of poor quality. But then the series was given an unexpected second breath. The mysterious demo dropped on the PS4 called PT, a game where you walked down a hallway over and over and over again as you dealt with a terrifying ghost that was stalking you. It was horrifying, it was tense, it was everything that fans wanted from a horror game, and it turned out to be a new Silent Hill game, starring Norman Reedus of all people people and being created by Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. But you all know where this is going. Kojima left the company, effectively killing Silent Hills. Konami snuffed out the second breath almost as quickly as they gave it, and Silent Hill seems to be dead as a franchise. Now, I know that there is rumors of the reboot coming out soon or soon to be announced, but still, that is going to be revisionist. That is going to be Konami putting their stamp on their own history, and to be honest, with their track record at the moment, I'm not too hopeful. Prove me wrong, Konami. Prove me wrong. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 thoroughly mistreated video game franchises. I hope that you enjoyed it, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, and it'd be great to see you over there. But before you go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you deserve all of the best things in life, like love, happiness, and success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge, and I want you to go out there and absolutely smash it today. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.